After a year, the baby with the forehead spot developed horns on his head. Everyone has a few birthmarks, and only a small fraction of people are aware of what they are. Birthmarks are skin abnormalities that develop naturally during pregnancy, but can appear up to a month after delivery if the kid is exposed to the sun. Some people are self-conscious about birthmarks. For example, they have no right to make anyone feel ashamed. In truth, there are people who have beautiful birthmarks and aren't afraid to flaunt them. Pigmented and vascular birthmarks are the two forms of birthmarks. They're categorized into three categories based on how they're put together. Pigmented birthmarks are small patches on the body where an excessive quantity of skin pigment is accumulated over time. When a significant number of blood vessels collect in a limited area of skin, vascular birthmarks occur. This is the story of a young kid named George Ashman, who was born with a big birthmark on his forehead. His parents were anxious that, due to his appearance, the mark might cause him troubles in the long run. According to reports, George Ashman, the 5-year-old boy, was born with a prominent red flaw on his forehead, and his mother, Karen, age 33, was terrified that he'd be tormented for the rest of his life as a result. When he was 4 years old, he had surgery to enlarge the ordinary skin on his forehead, allowing the birthmark to appear. He's reached the age of 6. By putting tissue expanders beneath the skin and gradually extending them, physicians were able to produce the impression of two flawless devil's horns. After 4 months, George's implants were removed and the defect was cut out so that the regenerated skin could be stitched together. Only a minor scar on his forehead remained, resembling something from a Harry Potter figure. The following is Karen's response to seeing the implants in place in Radstock, Somerset. The mother couldn't say anything. When they were positioned on either side of his tiny head, it appeared like horns, which she didn't expect to be that large. Her gorgeous, angel-faced infant had a devilish aspect. But it's the courage he displayed during this tragedy that makes her so proud. He's never let it stop him from achieving his goals. At the time of his birth, George was diagnosed with a high magnomia birthmark in 2006, which is characterized by brilliant, soft masses of abnormal blood vessels. When George was born, Karen recalled that her mind quickly rushed forward 10 years. George would be the bullied youngster with no friends and no partner. In 2009, George was referred to London's Great Ormond Street Hospital to begin treatment to remove the tumor. In 2010, the surgery was done. Last year, doctors put small inflatable pouches beneath his hairline on either side of his forehead, helping him to breathe more easily. They gradually swelled with natural physiological fluid over the period of 4 months, stretching the skin to the point where it could be removed without exposing the birthmark. Throughout the 4 months that George wore the horns, he received a barrage of insults from passers-by. School kids on street corners were beaming and raising their arms, according to Karen, who was divorced from George's father, Lee, a printer. The young adolescent once approached them and took a good look at us. He let forth a moan of dissatisfaction while she was in tears and extremely moved. I had no issue accepting her son's affection, but dealing with other people's reactions was a challenge. Everyone seemed to be against them in her opinion. George underwent surgery in April of this year to remove the birthmark and have a fresh layer of skin extended across his chest and shoulders. A tiny scar remains in his skull where the blemish once was, but he's otherwise healthy and has returned to school with his friends. What she was most proud of is that, despite everything, she witnessed George's strength, which she'd never witnessed as a youngster. George is a nice person, Karen added. He's unique, but he's awesome himself, and he's never let his differences stop him from being himself. Whether or not he has a birthmark or horns, her little devil has a lot of heart, and she'll always admire him for it. Birthmarks are associated with strange superstition. It's probable that pregnant women who disregard their hunger pangs are more likely than others to be assigned to various countries. According to one Israeli mother, if you have a food need and don't satisfy it by scratching yourself, your child will be born beautiful. When you're pregnant, a mark in the shape of the meal you were looking for would emerge on the woman's body, and the normal course of things would be on the part of the body she scraped. Mothers in Egypt, Brazil, and Italy have reported the same phenomenon, albeit not all of them thought it to be real. If you have a food urge and don't satisfy it while scratching yourself, a beauty mark in the shape of that meal will appear on your child's birth certificate. Which begs the question, how did such a strange religion gain such widespread acceptance? Although it's unknown who created this particular myth, It appears to be based on a larger collection of ancient notions that link birth abnormalities to a woman's pregnancy experiences. According to Edwin and Mona Radford's The Encyclopedia of Superstitions, if a pregnant woman meets a witch, she'll be cursed. The chance that the hare was not the harmless animal it appeared to be, but rather a witch appearing in that shape, heightened the anxiety induced by such an encounter. Birthmarks, according to the Boston Children's Hospital, are thought to be the product of maternal impressions or the mother's emotional state throughout pregnancy. A pregnant woman may just look at a portrait of someone during the time of the Greek physician Galen to see if her child would look like that person. It's possible to relax by looking at attractive sculptures. One's advantage, which was frequently emphasized in order to produce beautiful kids. It could meanwhile have the opposite consequence. Women who have been subjected to or imagined terrifying images. According to Embryos Pair, a Renaissance surgeon, the possibility of having to produce offspring existed. The notion endured until William Hunter, a Scottish anatomist, and his brother John, a surgeon, began to disprove it with scientific data in the mid-17th century. John Hunter revealed that a mother's blood supply is not shared with her unborn fetus, which was previously thought to be the route via which the mother's emotions were communicated. Yes, they were mistaken as well, but it's all in good fun. Despite this, some doctors have held on to their beliefs and maternal impressions for centuries, citing cases of patients who, for example, witnessed a house burning and gave birth to a child with a scar on his forehead that resembled a flame. Despite his reputation as the most discredited researcher of all, psychiatrist Ian Stevenson stated in a 1992 study that studies on maternal impressions were still being published in the 1000s. Parents who are worried that their child may look like Mikhail Gorbachev, although a very cute Gorbachev, have little influence over the matter if they're expecting. Birthmarks can be inherited, while others are purely coincidental, and they have nothing to do with the mother's eating habits or unfulfilled ambitions. Port wine stains or other vascular birthmarks are created by the peripheral of blood vessels in the skin, moles, and other pigmented areas. Birthmarks are formed by clusters of darker skin cells on the skin surface. The old wives' tales have left an indelible mark on a wide range of cultures all across the world. In a variety of languages, including Italian and Spanish, the word desires is used to describe birthmarks. As per the term used in Dutch and Danish, which also includes the word mother, only one parent may be accountable for the spots. According to Stuart Weiss, a psychologist who studied superstitions, they've endured for so long because superstitions are frequently connected with major life events. Things that are eagerly awaited and when a lot's at stake. Weddings and birdwatching are two examples of such events. Furthermore, what's known as random noise, such as the incomprehensibility of strawberry-shaped blotch, aids in the perpetuation of long-held superstitions by giving people something to try and make sense of. Finally, the author stated that this notion has likely grown in popularity, in part because it provides another justification for indulgence. After all, you wouldn't want a baby with a chicken-shaped mole and a Jell-O sandwich, right? Thank you for taking the time to watch this.